Is the key. They said, go to school. But why are so many graduates purposeless and jobless? On EduShift, we spot the cracks. We challenge the educational system. Torn between science, arts, and commerce, we bring clarity and answers to your questions, and we light up the path for a generation ready to stand out. Come enjoy discussions with educators, employers, and counselors. Let us fix this problem of career misalignment and help you discover yourself. EduShift, only on Global TV.
Hello there and welcome to another episode of EduShift, where we help you shift towards education that aligns with purpose. I am your host, Priscilla Obasi. I remember this is that platform where we talk about education and raising the next generation. Now, today's conversation is going to feel a bit uncomfortable because we are not just talking about strategies. We're also talking about ourselves. We are going to be questioning norms. Yes. So our topic today is discipline or damage. We are questioning the beliefs, the held-on beliefs or the traditional beliefs we've held on to for a long time. On today's episode, we want to unlearn some of those things that need to be unlearned because life is all about learning, unlearning, and relearning. So let me start with a simple question. How many of the things you do as a parent or teacher were taught to you by your parents or teachers? Another one is, how many of those things have you ever stopped to question? Because many of us are not raising children intentionally. We are raising them traditionally. And sometimes tradition is not always truth. I have my topic I sent to you. Have you seen it? I've put this thing. Don't worry, I'll cut it out. Tradition is not always truth. So let's talk about, let's start with a story, right? Yes, let me start with a story. I like to always infuse storytelling because it helps us understand the picture of what we're talking about. So a little boy, while talking, speaks while adults are talking. He has the habit of speaking while adults are talking. His father immediately says, keep quiet. Children should not talk when elders are talking. And the boy goes silent. Years later, that same boy is now in the classroom. The teacher asks a question. He knows the answer, but he keeps quiet. Why? Because somewhere deep inside of him, he has learned my voice is not important. I know you didn't see it that way, but that's the reality. Now let's fast forward. When he becomes an adult, that very child has the likelihood to struggle in interviews. He has that tendency to express or to struggle to express himself. He has that tendency to struggle to express himself. He also may end up struggling to speak up in meetings. And when people say he lacks confidence, the truth will be that his confidence was trained out of him. I don't know if I have parents watching this very episode. If you can relate to this, maybe while you were growing up, you had your parents talk to you and tell you to keep quiet when elders are talking. Now I understand the context of respect. But we must learn to draw the line and not train out good traits from our children in the name of tradition and respect. Follow me. Now, children should be seen and not heard. There's a belief as such. This is one of the most common beliefs. Children should be seen and not heard. Now let's ask, is it supposed to be discipline? Supposed to be suppression? Where do you stand in this divide? Children must be taught to be respectful. I totally agree, but respect does not mean silence. I don't know who fed us with these lies. Respect does not mean silence, because When children are not allowed to speak, they do not learn expression. They do not develop confidence. And there's no way they can build communication skills in the midst of this. So you have a child that will later grow in life, and when we start sending them to public speaking class, trying to fix what we suppressed, which shouldn't be. I mean, you can try to fix it, but you should start by correcting what you had taught them. So you speak to that thing they have held on to and make them unlearn it before you start to correct. Because if you try to build on a faulty foundation, you know what they say about that. There's another belief that says, spare the rod and spoil the child. Do I have my traditional mothers and African mothers watching this very episode? If you are a child sitting next to your mother, just maybe give them a wink at this point, because this very one is a constant practice in African homes, right? Now let's talk about discipline. Spare the rod, spoil the child. This belief has shaped generations. I know that it came with its beautiful benefits, but let us ask honestly, does fear really produce understanding? Because when you do all of that, what you do is you instill fear. So we should be careful not to instill fear in our children in the name of discipline. Yes, discipline is important, but when discipline becomes fear, when it becomes intimidation, when it becomes physical punishment steadily, it may produce obedience, quite all right, but not necessarily really character. I know you know the difference. Character is molded. Character cannot be taken away. Character is formed, it's shaped, and it's long-lasting. Obedience that comes from fear is not guaranteed. So you want to know what will give you the result of what you want at the end of the day. Now, a child may actually behave well in your presence, but how about in your absence? Can they still maintain that steez, that character, when you're not there? Because they may be acting out of fear and not understanding. So a child must understand why they are told to do a certain thing. You should speak into them. Let them understand. Children know more than you think they know, and they can understand better than you think. So sometimes take your time to explain. Let them know that there are pros and cons to situations. That way you will leave a lasting effect, a lasting impact. And you probably, definitely, not probably, you will definitely leave the impact you want to leave. There's another belief, the belief that says, good children don't question adults. Stop questioning adults. I don't know how many of you have said that. I don't know how many of you have heard that. I don't know how many of you have grown up with that mentality. But this one is dangerous because it kills. It kills curiosity. It kills critical thinking. It kills innovation. So when a child asks you why, and you respond, just question an adult, or why are you asking an adult? The truth is, every great thinker was once a child who asked questions. When you shut down questions, you shut down thinking. I hope that is clear. The fifth belief, I beg your pardon, the fourth belief. I don't want to, let's not run faster than we ought to. So there's a belief that says only certain careers may succeed. I told you this very episode is going to be interesting. So have you heard of the fact that, if you are a doctor, if you are a lawyer, if you are an engineer, which other ones do they add to this category? And maybe every other thing else, not serious. So what happens? So you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be an engineer. Every other thing else is not serious. Every other thing else is not so important. Every other thing else cannot give you the big, the fortune you hope to attain or achieve in life. Have you ever heard such? I want to tell you today that while being a doctor is very good, it all depends on your abilities. If you are not configured to be a doctor, you will be a doctor and you might not succeed. So it's not about the profession, it's about the personality. Yes, it's about the talent, it's about the individual. And if you were configured, I'm using the word configured, if you were built, if you have the potential of being a speaker, let me use that for example, you can still attain good success. It's all about understanding your person and understanding the business of what you are doing, having a full grasp of that venture. So when you say these things to children, they will begin to abandon their talents, their creativity, and their true uniqueness to fit into societal expectations. And maybe down the line, after all the expectations, they now grow into adults, successful on the paper, but in reality, they feel unfulfilled. I don't know if you know adults or if you're an adult watching this, if you can relate. You don't want to make the same mistakes with the future generation. Belief number 5. Quiet children are the best children. While I was in school, during our speech and prize giving day, they usually give out gifts, and sometimes they give out gifts to the most quiet child. I don't know how I found that. Maybe because I was not so much of a noisemaker, but I wasn't a quiet child. Yeah, but somehow, I don't know why I didn't sit well. How do you give gifts to a quiet child, and that child that is expressive in speaking doesn't get any gifts? As a matter of fact, you want to see them as nuisance. You want to label them wrongly. Very, very unaccepted. Unacceptable. No. Children who are quiet are as wonderful as children who are able to express themselves, children who are talkers. Every child is unique. There's no room for comparison. So in many classrooms, the quiet child is praised, the expressive child is corrected. But is silence equal to understanding? Some children are quiet because they are focused. Others are quiet because they are afraid. Others are quiet because they lack confidence. There are some that are quiet because they feel unheard. And we must learn to distinguish the difference. We must also learn to encourage children who are talkers. It's not a wrong thing. As a matter of fact, if you're able to harness that talent, you can make that child a wonderful motivational speaker, a child that would stand and inspire the whole world based on their choice of career. Now, belief number 6, failure is shameful. That belief, this particular one, has done a lot of damage because you have configured children to think not to fail. So, I don't know if you know that failure is a gift if used properly. Some children have gone into their shells to avoid, trying, to avoid taking risks. They've had to hide their mistakes. And all of this has hindered them from going to the next step. Because you have to go to the next step after failure. But because you hide it, you are able to, venture into the next step when you have learned from that failure, when you have failed and learned. Failure is a blessing in disguise. Failure is not an enemy. And children must be taught that. Failure is a feedback. And when children are not allowed to fail, they are not allowed to grow. You should know that. The real problem, we are repeating and not raising. Many of us are not raising our children intentionally, our students intentionally. We're repeating the patterns that you grew up with and you hated. Then you're not trying to replicate it. You're repeating the beliefs that you never liked. You're repeating the systems because that is how we were raised. Not everything we inherited is worth passing on. You can actually sit back and examine. This worked, this didn't work. And intentionally take out the part that didn't work. The problem is some of us don't even know what is not working. Like we have been so configured that we can't even sit back to retrospect.